Me and my fiance have a sexual incompatibility, and I'm not sure how to move past it. When I first met Liam, it felt like the universe had finally aligned itself in my favor. We met online, like so many do these days. It was a casual swipe, an idle flick of the thumb on an otherwise mundane evening. But there was something in his profile, maybe his wry smile, or the way he talked about his love for old vinyl records, that instantly drew me in. Our initial conversations were light and easy, the kind where time slips away without notice. We bonded over our shared love for obscure bands and our mutual disdain for pineapple on pizza. Our first date was a quintessentially perfect evening, complete with laughter, accidental hand brushes, and that exhilarating rush that comes with new romance. It felt so organic, so right, that by the end of it, we both knew this wasn't just another fleeting encounter. We started seeing each other once or twice a week, a rhythm that quickly became our norm. There was an unspoken anticipation each time we met, a build-up that was intoxicating in its intensity. We clicked in every sense, and before long, our dates extended into passionate nights together. The sex was electrifying, a perfect harmony of our desires, fulfilling in ways I hadn't even known I needed. For the first few months, everything felt like a beautiful whirlwind. We continued our routine of seeing each other, and the sex was frequent, vibrant, and deeply satisfying. But as we grew closer and started spending more time together, an unexpected pattern began to emerge. The frequency of our intimacy started to wane, and I noticed that Liam would sometimes shy away from my advances. It puzzled me at first. It wasn't something I had anticipated. My sex drive has always been high, an ever-present hum in the background of my thoughts, a hunger that Liam had initially seemed to match. When I brought it up to him, his response was nonchalant, almost dismissive. He would say he was tired, or not in the mood. I brushed it off initially. After all, he worked long hours, and finding moments of privacy was a challenge since neither of us had a place to call our own. I convinced myself that once we had our own space, things would improve. Time passed, and we reached a point in our relationship where it felt right to take the next step. We pooled our resources, and with a mixture of excitement and trepidation, we bought a house together. Moving in was a flurry of activity and emotions, in packing boxes, painting walls, and setting up what would become our sanctuary. It felt like the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with promise and endless possibilities. We settled into our new life together, and it was a joy to finally have a space that was just ours. But to my dismay, the frequency of our intimacy didn't improve. If anything, it became even more sporadic. My attempts to initiate were often met with polite but firm rejections. Liam would say he wasn't in the mood, or he was too tired, or simply not interested. It stung each time he turned me down, a sharp reminder of the growing disconnect between our desires. I tried to be understanding. I rationalized his lack of interest as stress from work, the pressure of our new mortgage, or simply the exhaustion that comes with adult life. But as weeks turned into months, the emotional toll on me became harder to ignore. It wasn't just about the sex, although that was a significant part. It was about feeling desired, cherished, and connected to the man I loved. The lack of physical intimacy started to feel like a chasm between us, one that grew wider with each passing day. Our conversations about it were often awkward and unproductive. Whenever I broached the subject, Liam would shrug it off, insisting that our dynamic had always been like this. He didn't seem to grasp the depth of my frustration or how isolated I felt. I started to question myself. Was I asking too much? Was my libido abnormal? I confided in a few close friends, hoping for some perspective, but their well-meaning advice only made me feel more confused. Some suggested that I should be patient and give him space, while others hinted that perhaps Liam's lack of interest was a red flag. Despite my growing unease, there were still many aspects of our relationship that were wonderful. We shared a deep emotional connection, enjoyed each other's company, and supported one another through life's ups and downs. Liam was my best friend, my confidant, and the person I saw my future with. We even got engaged, a beautiful moment that filled me with hope and excitement for what lay ahead. We also decided that we wanted to start a family, a decision that felt both exhilarating and daunting. But the irony wasn't lost on me. How were we supposed to have a child if we weren't having sex? I tried to initiate conversations about our sexual disconnect more frequently, but they often ended in frustration or hurt feelings. Liam's responses remained consistent. He was tired, not in the mood, or he would promise to try harder, only for nothing to change. It felt like we were caught in a loop, one that I couldn't see a way out of. I started to feel like I was the problem, that my desires were unreasonable, or that I was somehow failing as a partner. The more I pushed, the more Liam seemed to withdraw. It created a tension between us that was palpable, a silent strain that tainted even our happiest moments. Our arguments became more frequent, often sparked by my frustration over our lack of intimacy. I would try to articulate my feelings, to explain that it wasn't just about the sex but about feeling connected to him. But Liam would often shut down, retreating into a shell that I couldn't penetrate. One evening, after yet another unsuccessful attempt to discuss our intimacy issues, I found myself lying awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. Liam was beside me, already asleep, his breathing steady and calm. I felt a pang of envy at his ability to drift off so easily while my mind churned with restless thoughts. I knew something had to change, but I wasn't sure how to approach it without pushing him further away. The next day, determined to find a way to address the situation constructively, I spent hours reading articles and forums about relationships and mismatched libidos. I discovered that our issue was more common than I had realized and that many couples face similar challenges. I read about different strategies and approaches, everything from scheduling intimacy to seeking professional help. With this newfound information, I decided to try a different tactic. Instead of approaching Liam with frustration or accusations, I would frame the conversation in a more understanding and supportive way. I wanted him to know that I loved him and valued our relationship, and that I was willing to work together to find a solution that worked for both of us. That evening, as we sat on the couch watching TV, I turned to him and took a deep breath. "Liam," I said softly, "can we talk for a minute?" He muted the TV and looked at me with a mixture of curiosity and concern. "Sure. What's on your mind?" I gathered my thoughts, trying to articulate my feelings without sounding confrontational. "I know we've talked about this before, but I want to approach it differently this time. I love you, and our relationship means everything to me, but I've been struggling with how we handle our physical intimacy. I miss feeling close to you in that way, and it's affecting how I feel about myself and our relationship." Liam's expression softened, and he reached for my hand. "I know it's been hard, and I'm sorry if I've made you feel neglected. It's not that I don't love you or find you attractive. I guess I've been feeling a lot of stress lately, and it's affected my drive. But I want to work on this too. I don't want you to feel this way." His response was more open and empathetic than I had anticipated, and it gave me a glimmer of hope. We talked for a long time that night, exploring different ways we could reconnect and improve our intimacy. We agreed to set aside time for each other, not just for sex, but for moments of affection and closeness. We also decided to seek couples counseling to help us navigate this challenge with professional guidance. It wasn't an instant fix, but it felt like a positive step forward. Over the next few weeks, we made a conscious effort to prioritize our relationship. We scheduled regular date nights, took time to talk about our feelings, and even experimented with new ways to express intimacy. The counseling sessions provided a safe space for us to explore our differences and find common ground. Gradually, we started to rediscover the connection that had drawn us together in the first place. The frequency of our sexual intimacy didn't magically increase overnight, but we found other ways to bridge the gap between our desires. We learned to communicate more openly, to be patient with each other, and to appreciate the different ways we expressed love and affection. As we continued to work on our relationship, we also began trying for a baby in earnest. It was a journey filled with its own challenges and uncertainties, but it brought us closer together in unexpected ways. The shared goal of starting a family helped us focus on what truly mattered: the love and commitment we had for each other. Looking back, I realized that our struggle with mismatched libidos was a pivotal moment in our relationship. It forced us to confront our differences, to communicate more deeply, and to strengthen our bond in ways we hadn't anticipated. It wasn't easy, and there were times when I doubted we would make it through. But ultimately, it made us stronger and more connected as a couple. Now, as I sit here writing this, I feel a deep sense of gratitude for the journey we've been on. Liam and I are still learning, still growing, but we're doing it together. Our relationship isn't perfect, and we still have our moments of frustration and misunderstanding. But we've learned to navigate them with more compassion and understanding. And as we look forward to the next chapter of our lives, with the hope of welcoming a new addition to our family, I'm reminded of the strength of our love and the resilience of our partnership. We face challenges, but we've also discovered a deeper connection and a greater appreciation for each other. In the end, it's not just about the frequency of our intimacy or the fulfillment of our individual desires. It's about the journey we're on together, the love we share, and the commitment we've made to each other. And for that, I am profoundly grateful.